Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Bible in 1 year with the preacher's husband. Today we're talking about Exodus 36, 37, and 38. We're going to do something a little different. Instead of a little historical tidbit at the end, I'm going to start it off with a little historical tidbit. And the reason why I'm doing this is because the very end of Exodus 35, verse 35, kind of carries over into 36, verse 1. And that verse I'm talking about is this right here. It says, "He has filled them with skill to do all the work of a gem cutter, a designer, an embroiderer in blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and fine linen, and a weaver. They can do every kind of craft and design, artistic designs. Bezalel, Aholiab, and all the skilled people are to work based on everything the Lord has commanded. The Lord has given the wisdom and understanding to know how to do all the work of constructing the sanctuary." That right there just reminds me of all the skilled craftsmen and all the people who are very artistic and stuff, historically speaking. And one of them came to mind, Harriet Powers. Now, Harriet Powers, here's the thing about her. She was an African-American slave folk artist and quilt maker from rural Georgia. And she lived from 1837 to 1910. Now, while only two of her quilts have survived, Bible quilt number 1886, which I assume is the year that it was made, and Bible quilt number 1898, they are nationally recognized as masterworks of American folk art. Her panel-storied quilts use traditional applique techniques and piecework to record local legends, Bible stories, and astronomical events. Considered among the finest examples of 19th century Southern quilting, her work is on display at the National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C., and the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, Massachusetts. Her quilts demonstrate both African and African-American influences and consist of numerous pictorial squares, with each panel depicting a biblical story or celestial phenomenon. Scenes such as Adam and Eve naming the animals in the Garden of Eden. Remember reading about that? Cain killing his brother Abel. We've read about that so far. And the baptism of Christ are observed in her art. Her art is powerful, vivid, and clearly tells a story. It is thought that Powers could neither read nor write, but she knew the Bible stories from singing what they called Negro spirituals and from learning from her pastor through church sermons. So there's your little tidbit of history of an artist that has done amazing things with the gifts that God gave her. And now we're going to move on. We start 36 with these gifts that were given to the builders, and they start building the tabernacle, and then they start building the ark, and they're given all of these specifics on how they're going to do it. And then they start making the table, and then they start making the lampstand, and then they make the altar of incense, and then of course they make the altar of the burnt offering. And then as they start to making the bronze basin, something stood out to me here. In chapter 38, verse 8, it says this. It says, "He made the bronze basin and its stand from the bronze mirrors of the women who served at the entrance to the tent of meeting." This is the first time I've really read anything about women being involved in the building at all or doing anything at all. So I got to looking a little bit into it. And if you read in the King James Version and other versions of the Bible, chapter 38, verse 8, you find, "He made the laver of bronze and its base of bronze from the bronze mirrors of the serving women who assembled at the door of the tabernacle of meeting." Now that word serving is the verb to serve is tsaba that is used in this particular place in the Bible. Now that particular word, that verb for serving, is only used in 4 other locations in the Bible. And that is 1 Samuel chapter 2. Actually, it's not used there. Yeah, it is. It's used there. Then it's Numbers chapter 4, verse 23. Then there's Numbers chapter 8, verse 24. And then 2 Kings chapter 25, verse 19. Now, one thing about this, the serving part for the women here, it basically, that word serving refers typically to a military service or someone who is on duty on a job. So basically what that word is referring to is they were serving, they were working, they were doing a job, a task there that had a purpose for what was going on at the time. They were women serving the Lord. They were on duty for God at this point. And also those mirrors, I thought, well, that's crazy. Why does every one of them women just happen to have a mirror? Is that just, I mean, that's pretty true nowadays. Most women carry mirrors around in their purse. They check their makeup and all that kind of stuff. But what were those mirrors for? It can actually be drawn back all the way to ancient Egypt from where they came from, and they probably brought it with them from Egypt. And mirrors were used by priestly women in Egypt. So that leads us into more thought about, if priestly women in Egypt were using this, then maybe these women who were serving God had a little bit more status than what we're reading about here in the Bible. Maybe it was a little deeper than was projected here in the pages. There's more to it than what we're reading here. And we're going to see that later on in some of these other chapters as they refer back to the women that were serving, the serving women. Then they took inventory. Now here's a huge important thing about our reading today at the end of chapter 38 here. From verse 21 on, it talks about this. Chapter 38 verse 21, it says, "This is the inventory for the tabernacle of the testimony that was recorded at Moses' command," or the tabernacle of the covenant. "It was the work of the Levites under the direction of Ithamar, son of Aaron the priest." Number 24 here. And I'm going to bear with me here. Verse 24, "All the gold of the presentation offering that was used for the project in all the work was 2,193 pounds. That's a bunch of gold. The silver from those of the community who were registered was 7,544 pounds. Wow, that is a bunch of silver. That's like over 3.5 tons, almost 4 tons of silver. And they estimated that equaled, if it was 1/5 of an ounce per man, that would equal out to over 603,550 men. And there were 7,500 pounds of silver used. 75 pounds were used for each base that held up the curtains, and the remaining 44 pounds were made to make the hooks for the posts. Then the bronze that they used totaled 5,310 pounds. And you're thinking, man, these people just came from slavery, yet they had all of this amongst them? How amazing is that? But the important part of this is not how much they had, but why they were doing it. They were taking an inventory. This was everything to do with accountability and accounting for what they had given to the Lord. This was the basis for continued trust. Because what you do when you're taking an inventory, you're showing the people that are following you, the God is showing the people that are following him that this is what we're using this for, and this is where your money has gone, this is where your gifts have gone. We used what you gave here, we used what you gave here, we used what this you gave up here, and here's what we have left of it that we can use for later purposes. And you're open, you're honest, you're trustworthy. Everything is above board. Everybody knows, here's what we have to work with, here's what we're going to do with it, and they do it. This is about trust and accountability. It is trust and accountability 101 in the Bible, straight from God. And that's all I have for today. Tomorrow, we're going to do Exodus chapter 39 and chapter 40, and we're going to finish up in Exodus. I hope this has touched you in some way. If it has, give it a share. Click the like button, the subscribe button, and of course click that little jingle bell so you can get notified the next time I upload a video, which will be tomorrow for another episode of The Bible in 1 Year with the Preacher's Husband. See ya.